Tad Connor, assistant professor of government at New Mexico State University, says when most people think of American education, they remember the boarding school era that tried to force assimilation. He says since then, a lot has changed.
Tribes kind of reasserting themselves, preserving their languages, preserving their traditions and their customs, but also to try to create positive change and reform in public schools and in public education. And so I think that's why today we've seen sort of a role reversal away from these assimilationist policies, but more towards this kind of era of self-determination.
He says New Mexico is a good example of American Indian history and culture being taught in the classroom.
I think New Mexico is actually one of those states that's really kind of taken a lead in trying to create at the state level some type of coherent image of instituting Indian education curriculum and traditional kind of cultural programs in public schools that are not only going to benefit Native children, but are also going to play an educational role for non-Native students as well.
He says it's important for non-Native children to learn more about Native culture.
I think it's never a bad thing to learn more, especially about your state, and especially in New Mexico, when the history of the Pueblos and tribes and Apaches are intimately connected with the experiences of non-Indians in this state. And so I think it's really important for New Mexico students, in terms of knowing the history of their state, to be familiar with the history of the tribes that are in this particular region, and the rights of those particular groups.
He says there are a growing number of schools on American Indian territory.
With the tribally controlled schools, it gives the tribes a little bit more control over the curriculum in terms of being able to kind of bring into the classroom things that are unique, not only to American Indians as a whole, but unique to their particular group's historical experience, especially with regards to the language.
He says there is still a long way to go in the evolution of American Indian education. For KRWG, I'm Samantha Sonner.